Hello everybody, I'm Raphael Perry and it's time for some more Bloodsword. Now, I did say I would reread the final section from the end of the last episode, and just before I begin, it has been a pretty warm day here in sunny old England. Unusual, I know. We haven't had rain for the better part of a week, to be honest. It's been almost like summer. In actual summertime, I know. And it's a warm night. Now, it's not as hot as it was during the day, but I may need to pause recording briefly to go off and grab a drink and some ice cubes from the fridge or something. Maybe have it sitting here beside the keyboard. Who knows? I haven't done that yet because I'm hoping not to need to. We'll see how it goes. You pass between two soaring columns of grey-white marble into a series of labyrinthine chambers. The ceiling is shrouded in gloom 100 meters above you. Bizarre gargoyles and bas-reliefs stare from the walls. Everything is overlain with centuries of dust that swirls in fickle ripples, a dry pool through which you must wade. After some searching, you find your way into an upper courtyard of the palace. Cracked flagstones tilt as you step on them, sending the grubs and insects that shelter there scurrying to a more secure hideaway. Not a mere secure hideaway. You go up a flight of worn and moss-carpeted steps. The pitted stone has the look of leprous skin, and the once ornate balustrade is wrapped with dead ivy. Sounds like something you'd find in a Dark Souls game, to be honest. Moths sit with spread wings on the leaves, but when you brush against them, they too crumble to dust. Just to add to that feel, we're no longer in the Cathedral of Death, but we have this feeling we are in Death's realm. I should establish party marching order. Based on health, I actually think it's worth putting Remy in... No, it's not. Okay. Wait. I mistook his current endurance for his armor rating. Right. Is that wise? Did she... No, she cast that sword thrust spell in the last encounter, didn't she? Oh well, we'll prepare another one in that case and just say she's got it ready. That way I don't need to go back and check the recording mid-episode. That'd be duff. Right, you know what? I'm also going to just grab these heroes and drag them down here. And reset vision. There we go. This looks like a kind of place we could stage for next combat. I'll sort out the actual map dimensions when needed. We've got a big skull on the floor there. This would have been very fitting for the Pit of Death. For the Cathedral of Death, if we had attacked the four pallbearers. And I should have mentioned in the last episode, actually, how traditionally the four pallbearers bearing the coffin... it's because the coffin has 8 legs. I know a lot of people say, oh, loads of people have 6 nowadays. Yeah, I don't know why that is, to be honest. The 8 legs of the coffin is because of Sleipnir, the horse of Odin, taking the undead to the taking the dead to the underworld. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of reason for things. It's like the judge's hammer is supposed to represent Mjolnir. Lots of people used to swear oaths on Thor's hammer. There's a lot of things about it. It's like the wedding ring is on the left hand. It doesn't matter if you're left-handed or not. It's because the vein on the left hand is a more direct line to the heart. You know, there's lots of reasons behind these things. Anyway, now that we are out of combat, I'm going to try a 1-point healing roll from Brother Kern. Look, it's a new session, a new roll, we may be in luck. Hey! I'm actually going to give that point to Remy. Also, he is going to return the shielding charm to Brother Kern, who will hand the skull amulet, which was of no use to us at all, back to Remy. Although, with his current... Maybe I'm doing this so that I don't get his endurance and armor mixed up. There we go. There is a bronze door at the top of the stairs. You push at it and it swings back, revealing a wide, low-ceilinged room. After those 100-meter-high ceilings, anything would seem low. The walls and floor are constructed of a dull grey marble, but the ceiling glows like a bed of coals. There are intermittent black patches shot through here and there with deep red glow. Occasionally lumps of black ash fall to the floor. These immediately transform into large black millipedes that wriggle off into the darkness. You advance cautiously, approaching a large dais of black marble set in the center of the room. A flame burns brightly on it. As you watch, tendrils protrude up out of the marble to twist and weave around the flame, casting capering shadows across the walls. A high-pitched whistling is just audible now. There is a sage in the party, and he may know something about this. He may also wish to make another 1-point healing roll, as he is indeed about to do. Spends a point, gets it back, keeps it for himself. In the flickering movements of the tendrils, you recognize the arcane ritual used to summon Umboros, the Dark, a shadow demon of incalculable power. The shadows that are now flitting about the room will soon coalesce and form his mortal body. You must somehow disrupt the ritual before he appears, but how? We do not have the orb of fire anymore to use it. We could use a flask of milk, but we don't have it anymore. We abandoned it, leaving it for the berserker barbarians in their feasting hall. In which case there is nothing we can do to prevent the ritual. Perhaps keeping the milk would have been a good idea, but there's no point crying over spilt milk now, is there? However, we're at another non-combat section, so another 1-point healing roll will occur. Oh, there it is. Look. Happens once, doesn't have to happen every time, okay? It's only a 1 in 3 chance of losing everything, so theoretically, if we keep at it, we'll slowly begin to replenish the party's health, and that's good enough. The whistling becomes louder and louder until it is almost unbearable, rather like a kettle. It becomes a screech that sets your teeth on edge. You cover your ears, but it seems to drive like a needle right into your brain. Suddenly, the noise changes from a whistling to a hollow moan. As you listen, you realize it is like the sound of something breathing. A movement across the wall alerts you that you are no longer alone. The hard shadows have taken on substance and now descend toward you like a giant bat. A thin voice crackles through the chamber. So far you have come, so far, but now you must look into the face of Dark, that shadow feared by all. Umboros, come forth to slay for your master. A tall, shapeless block of shadow looms before you. It has eyes that crackle like distant lightning hidden behind somber storm clouds. Implacable claws, tattered knives of black, reach out for you. We do have someone who wields Shadow Cleaver, however. Sir Alwyn gained it in the cathedral, the silver rusty falchion. We may yet have something that is of use to us. Oh, that's not a combat section. That's a 1-point healing roll. Look, I'm getting these in while I can, okay. Excellent. Spend a point, get 2 points back. This one he will give to himself, taking Brother Kern back up to 6 endurance. We desperately want to get Remy up to 4. Obviously, that would probably be our next goal. When we get Remy up to about a 6 or 7, we can start looking at restoring Ariadne and shifting the party order around. Sir Alwyn feels the silver falchion sing along the length of its blade. The tarnish that discoloured it before now fades, causing it to shine brilliantly. The furthest corners of the room are suddenly bathed in relentless light like the desert sun. The demon Umboros begins to roar in pain, a sound like a scream of a burning man. Even if you could feel pity for such a monster, your magical blade has none. It pulls your arm up, plunging to the hilt in the demon's shadowy breast. Silence descends. Looking up, you find no sign of the demon. Shadow Cleaver lies at your feet. Now white-hot, its glow illuminates the chamber. You cannot retrieve it, so delete it from your character sheet. Beside it lies an ugly black lump, like a huge gob of soft tar. It is the heart of the dark, all that remains of the foul shadow demon. Take it if you wish, and we shall. I wonder if Umboros was an auto-kill or if there was a combat section. Oh well, I can look it up after the adventure is over. For now, though, we continue onwards. The outlines of the room fade away. You stand in nothingness for a moment, a vast infinity of mist. Gradually sounds drift to your ears, the clash of weapons, the screams of dying men. Then these sounds fade too, to be replaced by a steady, incessant thud. It is like the beating of a huge heart, relentless and rhythmic, growing closer, louder until you are almost deafened. Then, as a scene begins to form around you, you realize it is not the beating of a heart at all. You are standing in the pit of an arena. The noise you thought was a huge heartbeat is the cacophonous chanting of the ghoulish crowds who have come to see you fight. Well, if we're gonna fight, we really need to try for another 1-point healing roll. Okay, spend a point, got it back. Remy will go up to 4 endurance. It's looking pretty grim. Ah, an elderly man wearing a crown that looks almost as if it's made of icicles, with lots of people, hooded figures gathered around. That's a very ghoulish face. He is dressed in some nice finery, though. Look at that. That's very pretty. The arena is bathed in an eerie greenish light from several lanterns set on posts on the walls. The eager crowds that squat in the tiered seats look unpleasantly unhuman, more like giant insects wrapped in dark cloaks, rubbing their thin hands and calling in a droning chant for your blood. As the chanting lulls to a sinister murmur, you turn to face the royal dais that overlooks the arena. An old man stands there, a person of sneering lip and baleful eye. He raises a glowing staff, the light of which throws him into stark relief while the rest of the scene seems cloudy and dim, almost as if it might be yet another piece of elvish trickery or illusion. You notice a crown of ice or crystal set on his wrinkled grey brow, and there he is, aged beyond counting. His brittle voice silences the last hushed murmurs of the crowd. This is the kingdom of Wyrd, where I have ruled for centuries, he cries, pointing to you. You have presumed to invade my sovereign land. You have entered my Palace of Eternal Dusk, perhaps hoping to slay me. He lowers his voice and stares straight at you. Such foolishness. Do you think others have not tried to assassinate me? A rightful ruler is never without enemies. And where are those would-be murderers now? Those misbegotten churls who hope to bury their blades in my royal heart? Why, here they are. They come now to teach you the lesson they have learned. He frowns and spreads his hands. Something pokes up out of the ground some distance ahead of you. It is a bony white hand, twitching as it finds purchase for its grip. Small mounds erupt elsewhere as things long buried claw their way up out of the dust. Then the dry earth of the arena cracks apart and skeletons wearing rusty armor burst to the surface. More and more of them spill out into the open until a numberless horde of the creatures surges grimly forwards to attack you. Well, as it wasn't a combat section, we're going for another healing roll. Lost a point. Oh, just when it was looking really like we needed it. If you have the royal battle standard of the 1st Silentian Legion, we do. Let's hold it up. It filled us with hope. I believe Sir Alwyn is carrying it. Yes, item number 4. Excellent. We had to defeat Thanatos the Giant to get that, and it is he who is responsible for our terrible condition of health. Let us hope it was worth the battle. Worthy of the wounds. The Warlock King has summoned an army of skeletons to slay you. Against such overwhelming odds there seems no hope for you. You will be impaled helplessly on their spears as soon as they reach you. As you back away, looking desperately to and fro for an escape route that you know does not exist, the battle standard begins to pulse with light. The cowled figures rise from their tiered seats, uttering a gasp of horror, and begin to shrink back into the shadows. You have no idea what is happening, but you seize the battle standard and brandish it above your head. As you do, you are washed in glory. The ghosts of ancient generals from the halcyon days of Silentium whisper to you, "Be worthy of the eagle." You look at the battle standard, shining with unbearable light in your hands. Even the Warlock King takes a step back as he sees it, shielding his eyes with his long sleeve. The skeletons falter uncertainly, but the proud glory of the First Legion is enhanced, not dimmed by the centuries that have passed since Silentium fell, and no legion would ever allow its standard to be taken in battle. Ghostly troops form between you and the advancing skeletons. They gradually become real. Ranks of reincarnated legionaries stand awaiting your command. Excellent. The ghosts of the First Silentian Legion stand by our side. Also, that was not a combat section. We're going to try for another 1-point healing roll. Oh, wait. 5! Spends a point, gets 3 points back. 2 to himself. Up to 6. And 1 to Remy, up to 5. Ariadne is still on 9. And Sir Alwyn is still on 12. Check your character sheets for the items you are carrying. If you have any of the following, turn to the appropriate paragraph. Check the items in this order. I'm writing down 178 now in case we have to come back here. We'll probably be directed back here every time. The Heart of Dark. We have that. We were not instructed to remove the standard, but we're probably not going to get to use it ever again. All right. Also, that was a non-combat section, so we're going to have a healing roll for that. Spends a point, gets 2 points back. We'll give that to himself, up to 7. Okay. Even the dauntless First Legion of Imperial Salentium cannot hope to prevail alone against the countless unliving warriors that the Warlock King has called up from the ground. Fortunately, it seems that they will not have to fight alone. The heart of the dark begins to throb in your grip, spilling black blood into the sand by your feet. Gradually, the blood begins to give off a dark miasma, which solidifies in the form of heavy-set men-at-arms in sable livery. The Battalion of Shadow stands ready to receive your commands. Note that you now have the Battalion of Shadow on your side. Delete the Heart of the Dark from your character sheet. Alright, so we'll remove that. It's nice to be able to remove a few items. So, goes for First Salentium Legion. What was it? Battalion of Shadow. Are now gathered at our side. Then turn back to 178. We are instructed to return there. Hooray! Guess what? It's instructing us to now an ivory drinking horn. Excellent, but this is a non-combat section, so we're going to try for a 1-point healing roll because we... Nope, gone. Ah. It wavers up and down now. Up and down. An ivory drinking horn turns section 31. Very well. The light radiating from the battle standard illuminates the ivory drinking horn, which starts to glow. A swirl of red-tinged mead spills out from it, and where its torrent strikes the ground, it gives rise to huge barbarian warriors. They glare at the advancing skeletons and chew their shields, eager to enter the fray. Note that you now have the Berserker Thanes on your side. The drinking horn vanishes, so delete it from your character sheet. Now, I would like to say... ivory drinking horn. This reminds me of one of the Fighting Fantasy books, The Sword of the Samurai, where you had a section where you were challenged by a demon to a fight in an arena, and you went off into a lot of little side words and did a bunch of little vignette encounters which could net you allies, which you would then bring, and you would pick allies to fight against whatever the demon would send against you. This feels very similar to that. Also, this is a non-combat section, so we're going to try a 1-point healing roll. Hey, spends a point, gets 4 points back. Okay, let's go up to 8. So that's down 1, up 3. And then give 1 to Remy to take him up to a 6. At this point, we can start thinking about our other 2 party members' health. So back to 178. A white-fletched arrow. We do not have a white-fletched arrow. Must have missed it somewhere along the way. The fangs of a hydra. No, we don't have those either. How very Jason and the Argonauts. Even though really it should be the Sons of the Dragon's Teeth, and it's to do with Cadmus, a previous hero, but yeah, Hollywood messed that one up quite badly, or whatever film company. So no. A Photopher's Censer, no. Checkers pieces with the Elf Lord's rune. Yes, we do have those. Also, this is a non-combat section, so hey, We're going to roll. Hey, 5. Spend a point, get 3 points back. We'll go up to a 9 here for Brother Kern. Remy can be pushed to a 7. And who has those? I believe it's Brother Kern. Yes, the enchanted checkers pieces. Indeed. The Elf Lord said that in our time of need, these would... What was it the Elf Lord said? When you contend against the final foe, this sorcery of mine shall aid you. The playing pieces are shining with bright green light now. You catch a scent of pine and woodland blossom. Hurling the pieces down to the dust, you are not entirely surprised when they are transformed into full-size elven knights astride their war horses. Horses and riders alike are caparisoned in vivid green, and their weapons and the fittings of their harness are of silver, not iron. The Warlock King snorts at this sorcery. "Fey, fighters!" he laughs coldly. "My troops are not afraid of elfin swords." But you notice that despite his words, his brow is now furrowed in consternation. He is not sure that his power is great enough to deal with the reinforcements you have summoned to your side. Note that you now have the Knights of the Wildwood to fight for you. Delete the playing pieces from your character sheet. Well, there we go. We'll have a 1-point healing roll. Spends a point, gets 4 points back. Excellent. 2 will go to him to take him up to a 10. Then we'll raise Remy to 8 points. Ariadne is generally good at keeping out of harm's way, so we'll give 1 to Sir Alwyn for 13. At this point, we are obviously shifting party to a more regular formation. Brother Kern's armor suggests he should be in front of Remy, but Remy is slightly harder to hit. You know what? Let's go for it. Yeah. Let the priest prepare to take the front ranks. Section 20... Oh, wait. Knights of the Wildwood, right? Even if they are a bit flighty. So. Now you must determine the troop strength of all the forces that have gathered to fight for you against the skeletons. The Imperial 17 First Legion is 4. Battalion of Shadow is 4. The Berserker Thanes is 3. That's 11. The Company of White Annihilation does not stand by our side. Neither do the Fang Warriors, the Mist Phantoms. But we do have the Knights of the Wildwood, for a total of 8, 11, 14. Add up the troop strengths of all the forces you have summoned. This gives you the total troop strength of your army. Now pray that it is enough to overcome the Warlock's skeletal figures and make a 1-point healing roll while we still can. Spend a point, get 2 points back. Excellent. I think we'll just give that second point to Remy to bring him up to 9 endurance points. Total troop strength is 13 or more. Yes, we've got a 14. Could be 10 to 12, could be 7 to 9, could be 4 to 6. It can't be lower than 4 because we had to start with the Imperial 17 First Legion. 13 or more. We got a 14, as I said, so 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All right, let's get to it. You give the order to advance, and your army storms forwards to attack the Warlock King's creatures. Your army is a motley but powerful force, and the skeletons stand no chance against it. The first wave of the charge breaks the undead ranks, and in moments you see old bones being trampled underfoot in the press of the melee. A skull caught on a spear tip flies through the air and lands at your feet. You kick it aside and stride towards the dais where the Warlock King stands. And we'll have a 1-point healing roll to celebrate the glory of our military victory. And we'll lose that point. There we go. Okay, 3 party members now have 9 endurance points. Brother Alwyn has 13. So if there's great danger to be faced, he's the one to be facing it. In his newly acquired fearless condition. With measured tread, you advance on the Warlock King's dais. He fixes you with a bitter glare as you step up in front of him. "These games have gone on long enough," he shrieks. "Now behold the power of the King of the Wyrd!" He brings his thin hands together and a thunderous crack splits the air. Like a breaking mirror, the scene around you shatters into a million fragments. Someone's been watching Labyrinth, haven't they, with that illusory ballroom scene where it breaks like a mirror. But we will have a 1-point healing roll while we're at it. Spend a point, get a point back. We'll leave it where it is. No urgent need for life transfer just yet. Although I may have spoken too soon. The Warlock King chooses some breathtaking locations for his battles. Now you are clinging to a rod of cold metal, somewhere where the wind whistles cold and raw. You try to take in the details of where you are. You are holding on to a tenuous network of metal rods like a giant web in the sky. You see only a limitless blue haze running into the distance all around. Looking down, you can just make out a few wispy clouds hundreds and hundreds of meters below. Whatever the rest of that sentence was, it obviously didn't scan in when whoever scanned this document did so. The Warlock King sits in the center of the web. His huge crystal throne is set in the cold sky. He still wears his crystal crown, and hung about his neck on a cord you now see the item you have come so far to obtain, the hilt of the blood sword. He sees you look at it, and his aged face twists into a brittle smile. "A precious talisman indeed. It guarantees my sovereignty from the Magi, so I have no intention of parting with it. Perhaps you are willing to part with the scabbard, though?" "You know enough not to do that. We can threaten to drop the scabbard, but then we'd have to turn to section 419. Whatever that means. And whatever it means is probably something very, very bad. We could use an item, or we could try climbing along the web to attack him. Let's see what items we might have that would be of particular use in this situation. And while we're at it, I think a 1-point healing roll is in order while we're deciding which item to use. Spend a point, get 4 points back. Excellent. We'll give 3 of them to Brother Kern, taking him up to 11. And 1 to Remy, taking him up to a 10. Which item do you think will help? An iron bell, a gold ring, or a wolf's head clasp? We have had a wolf's head clasp since very on the beginning of the adventure. It's silver, and it belonged to the werewolves. The iron bell was incredibly useful down in the Cathedral of the Dead. Would it be useful again? It did serve to silence evil magic that was being used against us. And it was given to us by the seer. We don't have a gold ring. When I sat down to play this adventure, I looked at the old character sheets from 2004. Was it 2004? 2008? I think it was 2008, so like 16 years ago. And I saw the iron bell on a character sheet at the end of book 2, and I remembered it as a powerful magical item that was very useful at some point. But I didn't remember the tasks and challenges down beneath the Cathedral of Death. So I think I'm going to use it here. Some items can be useful in more than one place. Let's use it. Whoop. There we go. You brandish the bell. The Warlock King's mouth begins to curl into a contemptuous sneer, but as you start to ring the bell, his expression changes to one of horror. With each resounding knell, deep cracks appear across his crystal throne. "Desist!" he screams, jumping to his feet. Thousands of images whirl through the skies around you, seeming to flit like phantoms out of the breaking throne. You shake the iron bell with all your might. Suddenly, the Warlock King's arms drop to his sides, and he gives you a look of resignation. "It is over," he says. The crystal crown upon his brow bursts into 1,000 fragments. And to celebrate that, we're going to go for a 2-point healing roll. Watch me roll it. No, whatever I roll. Hey, spend 2 points, get 4 points back. Well, we'll give these 2 back to Brother Kern, and 1 each to Remy and Ariadne. That way, every party member's had at least 1 point of healing this session. You are lying on grass beside a lake. You sit up and look around. The lake looks disturbingly familiar, very like the one on which the Palace of Eternal Dusk was built, but there is no sign of that proud edifice, only a broken and weathered ruin overgrown with a profusion of ivory. And the lake you saw earlier was stagnant and foul. This one is clear and fresh. It sparkles in the sunlight. But if this is somehow the same lake, then behind you should be... You turn, expecting to find the sombre forest of thorns, but the soaring pines bear no resemblance to those evil briars. A shadow falls upon you in the warm sun. You jump to your feet, ready for combat, but it is not Griston, the guardian beast, this time. A woman with a gentle smile and wise eyes stands before you, leading a dazed old man by the hand. She reaches out to take something from around his neck and offers this to you. You look down at the object. It is the blood-sword hilt. Sir Alwyn will gratefully receive this. You start to thank her, but she and the old man are already walking away across the lush grass. He stares at her as though befuddled at first, but then she says something and you hear him break into delighted laughter. Your quest for the hilt is now successfully complete. Surviving players can divide equally among them an award of 1,000 experience points. So that's 250, each taking everyone up to 800. They'd have an extra, I think, 35 points each if we had defeated Nebularon, the demon in Book 1. And I think that's the only other optional experience gain I'm aware of in the entire series. So I don't think it's possible to get a bonus level on bonus experience in the entire series unless you've only got 1 or 2 heroes in the party. We don't get to level yet. That'll happen at the end of the adventure. Speaking of which, let's turn to the next section. You return south, finding the same story all around. The country of Wyrd seems to have awakened at last from out of a nightmare. The people who last night went to sleep in a world of poverty and pain now find themselves awakening into a verdant and bountiful land. The Armigers and Solons, agents of the Warlock King's authority, cast their armour and judicial maces into the hedgerows to rust. The sound of laughter and song rings out through the land once more. A few days later, you are sitting beside a fire in the midst of a majestic pine forest. The happy folk of Wyrd cavort around in dances to appease the spirits of winter. The festival was a grim one in past years, when the winters were bleak and cold, but now the evening is mild and pleasant. Night and winter no longer seem as terrible as they once did. You are reminded by this scene of the forester's camp where your adventure began. You find your eyes fixed on the blood-sword hilt and scabbard where they glitter beside the campfire. Your quest has not ended yet, for you have still to find the final section of the sword, its blade. Where will that part of your adventure take you? Find out in the third book of the series, The Demon's Claw. Our adventure is at an end. We have been successful. I am particularly proud of having pulled this one off without a fight. That seemed to happen at the end of the last book as well, where we used items we had gained to avoid a very challenging final encounter with Skrymir the Giant. I may have to make a mock-up thumbnail with a portrait for the Warlock King. Or maybe I'll just use a screenshot of them standing here in this grisly scene. Let's enjoy the glossary at the back before moving on. So, Blue Moon. One of the spirits of the Magi, the others being White Light, Red Death, Gift Star, and Plague Star. Similar to the 5 orbs, in that regard, actually. In astrology, Blue Moon stands for mystery, paradox, illusion. Also the boundary between life and death, and hence it can represent mystical wisdom. The Blasting is the demon-spawned disaster in which spite was laid to ruin and the true Magi were killed. After this holocaust, which lasted for 3 nights and days, spite was left isolated by a deep chasm, which many believe goes right down to the fires of hell. So we have had some of these before. The Corradian Sea. The sea around whose shores are located the richest ports and cities of the world. Corradian is also used as a collective adjective for the countries of the true faith, Algandi, Shobret, Kurland, the New Serentine Empire, Asmoli, and Emphidor, which surround this sea, almost like the Mediterranean Sea, I imagine. Ferromane, the richest port on the Corradian coast. Gift Star, one of the spirits of the Magi, the others being White Light, Red Death, Plague Star, and Blue Moon. The significance of Gift Star in astrology is as a symbol of luck, both good and bad, and the oracle. So we could have looked up what the 5 Magi spirits may astrologically symbolify when we chose an orb. Kraf is a large country in the far north of Legend, divided into several dozen separate states, each of which is ruled over by a magus. It is divided from the civilized lands around the Corradian Sea by a deep rift valley which cuts through the Corradian continent from eastern to western shore. A cold and inhospitable country full of ancient and xenophobic traditions, Kraf is avoided by most merchants from the southern lands. Legend. The mortal world, Midgard or Middle-earth. The Magi are the lords of Kraf. There are some 30 Magi, each essentially a local despot with absolute dominion over his territories. Since the country cannot support a standing army of any size, disputes are settled by means of a battle pit's contest, and sometimes by assassination. Plague Star. One of the spirits of the Magi, the others being White Light, Red Death, Gift Star, and Blue Moon. Seen in astrology as indicative of illness, Plague Star is interpreted in another sense as the decay and corruption that must inevitably follow any act of creation. So things wither and die. Red Death is also one of the spirits of the Magi, the others being White Light, Gift Star, Plague Star, and Blue Moon. In astrology, Red Death is generally taken as the symbol of wanton carnage and terror. Others see it as conflict in a general sense, perhaps within an individual's psyche, which, if resolved, leads to enlightenment. Silentium is the capital of the old Silentine Empire, which once took in most of the Western world. After the fall of the old empire 700 years ago, Silentium has risen to a new importance as the centre of the true faith. So, like from Alexander the Great's empire, which was larger than the Roman Empire, but didn't last anywhere near as long, the Roman Empire, and then Byzantium, right? As the new centre of Christian faith in Europe of the time. Yeah. The spirits of the Magi. Oh, late night yawn. 5 small luminous objects which are sometimes visible in the northern skies at night. Each appears about a fifth the size of a moon's face. According to the popular superstition of craft, these objects are the apotheosized spirits of the 5 greatest wizards among the true Magi. They appear frequently in folk tales, usually as malevolent entities, constantly plotting and dreaming of their return to the land of men. Less sinisterly, they are potent symbols in astrology. Spite is the holy symbol of the true Magi, who convened there every 7 years in order to commune with the gods of craft. Today it stands in ruins atop a pinnacle of rock in the middle of the vast rift of the earth, known as the Cauldron. The true faith is the principal religion of modern legend, and the true Magi were the original rulers of craft, wizards of unimaginable power who were all slain in the blasting of spite centuries ago. The present Magi are, for the most part, the descendants of seneschals or apprentices who seized power in the ensuing confusion. It should be ensuing, shouldn't it? The Warlock King was the centuries-old ruler of Wyrd. He has the power to shape reality within the boundaries of his kingdom and can alter the dreams of his subjects to question or to punish them. White Light is one of the spirits of the Magi, the others being Red Death, Gift Star, Plague Star, and Blue Moon. The meaning of white light in astrological terms is as knowledge and consciousness, absolute and positive action which brings about permanent change. And the white orb was the orb of fire. Knowledge and consciousness, absolute and positive action. Glad we chose that one. And Wyrd. An island kingdom situated in the Mistral Sea east of Craft. It is ruled by the Warlock King, who was a vassal of the true Magi until the blasting. And there we are. Well, let's go enjoy our level up. The adventure is at an end, and rewards are to be doled out. So, first off, we get to remove all our diseases. No diseases for Sir Alwyn. Brother Kern had typhoid, which reduced his fighting prowess by 1. Remy had soul bite, which reduced his psychic ability by 1. And haemophilia, which caused him to take an additional point of damage every time he was wounded. And Ariadne suffered no diseases. Alright, so warrior from rank 3 to 4. First off, we change rank 3 to rank 4. Fighting prowess remains the same, as does psychic ability. Damage goes up to 2 dice. However, I'm not touching these because we know he has the extra point of fighting prowess from Fearless. So this goes to 2d6 or 2d6 plus 1 for he still wields the Axe of Heraklos. The warrior gains awareness 7 at rank 4, which is going to be very useful, although I imagine we might start seeing a lot more awareness 7 enemies in the next book. And 6 points of endurance, taking him to 24. Obviously, all health will be healed, and there's probably a bit of extra gold for the start of the next book. We can probably dump some of these items. We're almost never going to see use the battle standard of the First Legion again. The gloves and cloaks can probably be gone from everybody. What we will do, however, is we will return the scabbard of the blood sword to him. We now have 2 parts of this fabled scimitar. Endurance is going to be the most likely change for most party members. So Remy the Trickster, at 4th rank, gains a point of psychic ability to counter up the point that he was temporarily docked, bringing it up to a 7. His damage will go to 1 die plus 2, basically being 1 rank behind the warrior. Awareness, yep, stays at 8, but he got the point of psychic ability instead. And 6 points of endurance, taking him up to 24. He will also be at full health. He won't need gloves or that bedroll anymore. And I may remove some other excess items. Oh yeah, and arrows will obviously reset to 6 after a new book as well. Oh! You know what else is going to happen to the 225 gold pieces Remy's carrying? They're going to get redistributed around the party. Let's see, 220, that would be like 35. No, wait. 11.55 each. With 56... remainder 1. So he'll get 57. $56. $56. And 56. There we go. Excellent. Brother Kern won't need his gloves or woolen cloak. We can move the golden snuff box down to here and give him back his new quiver of arrows. He will also have reached rank 4. The Sage, at rank 4, gains a point of psychic ability and a point of awareness. Okay. And a point of damage. Everyone gets a point of damage every rank. And 5 points of endurance, taking him up to 20. He will, of course, get a full heal. And there will probably be a bit of bonus money for all party members at the start of a new book, but there might not be, actually. And finally, we'll come to Ariadne, who obviously doesn't keep spells prepared in between books. She can ditch the gloves and the fur cloak, and she will be elevated to rank 4. At rank 4, the Enchantress doesn't gain a point of awareness, but does gain a point of fighting prowess. So her fighting prowess will raise to 7, with a magic sword making it 8. Her damage will go to 1d6 plus 1. One rank behind the Trickster and the Sage. And she'll get 5 points of endurance, taking her up to 20. We may start seeing 2d6 damage a little more frequently in the next book. But not necessarily from small crowds of enemies, but more from more threatening foes. Alright, the 2 crystalline blue eyes. I'm not sure if they were actually of use at any point in that adventure. There we have it. Victory has been achieved. The Warlock King has been deposed and replaced with a more beneficial ruler. We now have 2 parts of the blood sword and are preparing to determine the location of a third. Well, that's going to be for book 3, obviously. Now, last time at the end of book 1, I did a separate video for forts for the end of the book. I should have probably included it in the last episode, but honestly I just forgot. I think I should keep it consistent across the series though, so there'll be a end of book 2 forts video next, but after that I'll take a little break for a few days before I start on book 3. Wow, we made it through this one. And after book 3 we'll be on to books 4 and 5, which I have never played. I skimmed through them briefly at one point, looking to see if a few returning elements, like if we would see a character that we will meet in book 3 again in the future books. And saw a few things, didn't get any sort of coherent picture of how things went together. Hopefully I'll be going in not entirely blind, but reasonably so. And we just got book 3 to go then in that case. And that should be a lot of fun. We get to go to the World of Legends version of Outremer, the Crusader Kingdom in the Middle East. And that'll be interesting. We'll get to meet lots of Arabian Nights type characters and have wonderful adventures. Probably less than 1001 though. Well, I'm going to leave this episode here. I hope you've all enjoyed this one, although some of you may be a bit disappointed there wasn't a final fight with the Warlock King. I'm sure it's there in the book, and it's probably pretty deadly. That being said, most of the unavoidable fights in this book were very deadly. Yeah, but that's thoughts to keep for the After Thoughts video. So yeah, I hope you've all enjoyed this one, and I'll look forward to seeing you all in the very next video. I'll say goodbye for now though, and cheerio everyone! See you all next time. You're all heroes.